We are up to Daf Yud Amud Beis, the third line on the page, fourth line. Rav Chama Rav Chanina pasach la pischa lahai parshasa mihacha. Rav Chama pasach la pischa. He would open up an opening for this parsha from over here. Rashi says when he used to talk, we find this in Megillah also, when they used to talk about a certain sugya, so they would, before, as just a preference to what they were going to talk about, they would bring a couple psukim from the Torah talking about it. So when he would talk about the parsha of rotzchim, parsha of murderers, he would bring the following pasuk: Tov v'yasher Hashem, good and straight is Hashem. Al kain yoreh chatarim b'derech. Therefore, he points the chatarim, the sinners, on the road. That's end quote. So again, Hashem is good and just and straight, and therefore he directs the chatayim on the road. And he said as follows: Im lechatayim yoreh, if chatayim yoreh, if for sinners Hashem directs them to the right place, kal v'chomer letzadikim, all the more so for tzadikim. What he was referring to is coming off the Gemara we learned last time, that when the rotzeach, who's a sinner, even though he did it by accident, the guy who killed somebody by accident, he's running to an Ir Miklat, we have signs on the road showing him where to go. So God is directing you, God's telling you where you need to go. So if we do that for a sinner, all the more so for somebody who's a tzaddik, Hashem will be pointing him in the right direction. Reb Shimon ben Lakish, pasach la pischa lahai parshasa mehacha. He would open up from a different pasuk. When he would want to talk about the sugya that we're learning, he would open from a different pasuk. It says, quote, Vasher lo tzada, if he didn't plan, he wasn't trying to kill somebody, velkim ino liyado, and Hashem made it happen. Kasher yamru mashal hakadmonim, like the mashal hakadmonim, like they say mashal hakadmonim. This is a pasuk, like they say mashal hakadmonim, mirshayim yatsa resha. From rishayim comes resha. Now, what is that referring to? So if we look at Rashi here, Rashi says, "Velkim inu yado zesham rakasav kashi yomer mashal hakadmoni mirshayim yatsa rasha." Mashal hakadmoni. What does it mean, mashal hakadmoni? The parable of the early one. Hiya Torah. This is referring to the Torah. She mishal hakadosh baruch hu she kadmoni sha'olam. So when it says mashal hakadmoni, kadmoni is referring to Hashem, who came before the entire existence of the world, and mishal kadmoni means it's from the kadmoni, meaning basically we know from the Torah this concept. As following, in other words, this thing of that Elokim in liyada, this whole concept that Rishayim Yatsa Rasha, from a Rasha, evil is going to come out. We know this from the Torah, as follows. Let's go back in the Gemara. What's the pasuk talking about? B'shnei bnei Adam, two people. Shahargus and Nefesh. You have two people who killed somebody. Echad harig b'shogeg, one guy killed by accident. But echad harig b'mezid, and one guy killed on purpose. This one does not have witnesses, and this one does not have witnesses. So both of them seemingly got away with the act they did. Again, one guy was chopping the wood with the axe. The metal fell off and killed somebody by accident, but nobody saw it. So really, he should be going to Gullus, but nobody's there to tell him he has to go to Gullus, so he sort of gets away with it. You have another guy who shoots somebody on purpose and kills him, and also nobody saw it. He really should be put to death, but he got away with it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu mazminam lepundik echad. Hashem will, for lack of a better word, will invite them or make them come to a pundik echad, to one meeting place. Zeh shaharg b'mezid yoshev tachas asulam. The guy who killed on purpose will be sitting under a ladder. Zeh shaharg b'shogeg, and the one who killed by accident, yorid b'sulam, he's going to be going down the ladder. V'nafalav, and he'll fall on him. V'hargu, and he will kill him. So in other words, God will make sure that just punishment will be given out, and therefore, what's going to happen is the guy who killed on purpose, he's going to be sitting under the ladder. The guy who killed by accident will be on a ladder. He'll fall. And then, Zeh shaharg b'mezid nerag, the guy who killed on purpose, he will get killed. The Zeh shaharg b'shogeg, and the one who killed by accident, Gola, he will now have to go to Gullus, because this will be done in front of people, and everybody will see this. So this is what he would open up the pasuk saying, that mirishayim yatsa resha, that from the rishayim, eventually God will catch up to you, and the resha will come out, and that's mishal kadmoni. This is from the kadmoni. This is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who preceded the entire world. Good. That's the end of that. Now we move on a little bit off topic. Amar Rabba Rav Huna Amar Rav Huna V'Amila Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav Elazar Min HaTorah Min HaNeviim U'Min HaKsuvim. The following concept we know from the Torah, we know from Nevi'im, and we know from Ksuvim. The following: B'derech she'adam rotza leilech, the road that a person wants to walk, but in it molichan oso, they will lead you. So we know everybody has free choice. The way that you choose to go, you will be led along that road. God will allow you to continue going with your free choice, and even, I wouldn't say encourage, but allow it to happen. They'll open the doors for you. If you want to take the bad path, that road will be open for you. Nobody's going to stop you. You have free choice. Parenthetically, the Marsha, very famous Marsha over here, says, what does it mean, ba molichin also? What does it mean, molichin? Molichin is plural language. What does it mean, they will lead you? Who's leading you over here? Right? Seemingly, Pashup Shah is referring to God will lead you along the road. What does it mean, molichin also? They will lead you. So the Marsha says, we know that every time somebody does a mitzvah, he creates an angel, he creates a malach in Shemayim. If somebody does an avera, he creates a bad angel. Every time a person does a mitzvah, he creates an angel. This angel wants to have other angels that are mitzvahs. So that angel is going to push you to do another mitzvah. That's where the concept comes from, mitzvah goreres mitzvah. One mitzvah causes another mitzvah to happen. You sort of get into a rhythm. You do one mitzvah, it's going to lead to another mitzvah, which leads to another, and then you keep going. Unfortunately, Avera is the same way. If a person does an Avera, it leads to another Avera. He just started with one simple thing, leads to another thing, another thing. Why does that happen? Because the malach that was created from the first Avera pushes you. He gets involved. He says, hey, I'm a malach who's created from an Avera. He pushes you to create other malachim like him. So he wants other evil Averas malachim. So that's what it means. On the way a person wants to go, molichim, so it means those angels. So if a person does Averas, he's created 5 malachim, because he did 5 Averas. Those 5 malachim are going to lead him along the Aver path, so he will do more Averas. Now, where do we see this theme? That, in other words, God is not going to stop you. You could go do, you want to choose the mitzvah path? Great. Hashem will lead you along. You want to choose the Aver path? You can keep going. You'll keep going down that path, and the malachim will even encourage you to do that. Where do we know this concept from? So let's show it from the Torah, Nevi'im and Ksuvim. Mina Torah, Dichsev, quote, Lo selech imahim. Hashem told Bilam, don't go with them. V'ksiv, and it says, quote, Kum lech itam, go with them. Right? If you're familiar with the parsha with Bilam, what happened was Bilam originally wanted to go and curse the Jews, and Hashem told Bilam, don't go. But when he saw he was being stubborn about it, he kept wanting to go, and he actually got on his donkey and he started going. So Hashem said, okay, fine, so go. So therefore you see, if you really want to go, fine, God will let you do it. That doesn't mean it's right. It just means you'll have the opportunity. Mina Nevi'im, how do you know this from the Nevi'im? Dechsiv, it says, quote, Ani Hashem Elokecha Mlamdecha, I am Hashem Mlamdecha, teaches you, Lahoil Madrichecha, Lahoil to help you, Madrichecha B'derech Telech, I will lead you on the path you will walk. So once again, showing you whatever you choose, that's the, Rashi says, the path which you choose, God is saying, I will let you walk on that path. Mina Ksuvim, where do you see this from Ksuvim, from the writings? The Chsev, says, quote, Im laletzim hu yalitz. If a person wants to attach himself to mockers, he'll be a mocker. Ula anavim yitain chen. But if you attach yourself, la anavim, if you attach yourself to people who are humble, yitain chen, God will give you grace. But the point is, if you want to be with the leitzim, you'll be a leitz. Hashem will give you that opportunity. He will open the doors for you. Good. So these are the 3 psukim proving this. Again, we wanted to show from Torah, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim. Now, we get back to our parsha over here, the parsha of a Rotzeach, somebody who killed by accident. Amar Rav Huna, the following. Rav Huna said, Rotzeach shegala li'ir miklat. A Rotzeach who's exiled to an ir miklat. We have Reuven over here who killed somebody by accident. The metal fell off the axe. He killed Shimon. He's quickly running to the ir miklat. Rashi explains he's on the way. He didn't get there yet. What happens if a guy walks out of his ir miklat once he's there already? That's a sugya later on Daf Yud Beis. We'll deal with it over there. This Rashi tells us, talking about he just killed somebody 5 minutes ago. He quickly drops everything and he starts running to the ir miklat. Now, before he gets there, umatzu gol adam, and the gol hadam finds him, v'hargu, and kills him. Pater, he is pater. So if the gol adam, which means the relative of the deceased, finds this guy and he kills him before he gets to the ir miklat, he is pater. he is off the hook. We will not charge him for murder. In our Shimon's friend, Shimon's brother, let's say, again, Reuven killed Shimon. Reuven's running to the Ari Miklat. Shimon's brother, in an act of anger, quickly runs. He sees Reuven running to the Ari Miklat, and he shoots him before he gets there. Shimon's brother is off the hook. Why is he off the hook? Kasavar, he holds, quote, velo ein mishpat mavis. To him there will not be mishpat mavis. There's not a punishment of death. And quote, begol hadam udas. If that is referring to the goel hadam. If we could just look at this pasuk for a second, it's very important to understand the pasuk inside. The pasuk says, if you look at Devarim, Parak Yod Tes, pasuk Vav, the pasuk says, Pen Yirdav Gol Adam. This is talking about, again, Devarim, Parak Yod Tes, pasuk Vav, pasuk 6. It's talking about if somebody killed by accident, he quickly runs to a Ari Miklat, he runs to the refuge city. The pasuk says, Pen less Yirdav Gol Hadam Achretzech. The reason he should run to the Ari Miklat is perhaps the Gol Adam is going to run after him. Again, the Gol Adam is the relative of the deceased. Ki yecham levavo, because he's very heated, he's very angered that his brother died, was murdered. V'hisigon, he'll reach him. Ki yarba derech, because the road's long. V'yuko nefesh, and he will kill him. So in other words, the Torah is saying you should be going, Reuven should be going to an Ir Miklat, lest the brother of the deceased, i.e. the Gol Hadam, will run after him and kill him. Now look at the next words. Velo ein mishpat mavis. And to him there is not mishpat mavis. So according to Rav Huna, the way you read these words is, to him, referring to the Gol Hadam. If the Gol Hadam catches up with you, with Reuven, and he actually kills him, lo im, to him there is not mishpat mavis. Ki lo sonehu lo mitmol sham. Now, the words ki lo sone lo mitmol sham are a little bit out of, according to Rav Huna, they don't really belong here. Lo sonei lo means Reuven didn't really hate Shimon the whole time, and it was obviously an accident. But according to Rav Huna, we're sort of ignoring that. Rav Huna says lo ein mishpat mavet means that the Gol Hadam is not going to be charged mishpat mavet. He will be not put to death. Let's see Rashi over here. Rashi says begol Hadam akasim medaber. Rashi's in the middle of the page. So Rashi tells you, how did Rav Huna read the pasuk? As follows. V'hachi kamar, pen yirdav gol adam achrotzech v'sigo. Rashi's reading the pasuk for you, according to Rav Huna. Perhaps the Gol Adam is going to run after him. V'ko nefesh, v'lo yisra mi bezin. The Gol Adam is not going to be scared of being put to death by Bezdin. Ki lo ein mishpat mavis. Because he knows he's not going to be put to death. So the Gol Adam has free reign over here. He's going to run, he's going to try to kill him. Therefore, the pasuk is saying, Reuven, if you kill somebody by accident, you better quickly get yourself to an Ir Miklat, because the Gol Adam knows that if he kills you, he's off the hook. Therefore, you better get there fast. Now, Rashi's bothered by, how did Rav Huna read the words, Ki lo so nehu lo Moshe, which is seemingly referring to Reuven, not to the Gol Adam. Now, Rashi says, V'sof ha-mikra ha'omer ki lo so nehu, the end of the pasuk, Mosev al Rosho, it's going on the beginning of the pasuk. Pen yinder of Gol Adam, ani omer lecha lahachin lo derech, I'm telling you to set up the road, Ki lo sonei ulov lo hargo midas. In other words, this is going back on a couple psukim before, where the pasuk says that we are supposed to make a Ari Miklat, and we're supposed to set up signs on the road, so the Gol Hadam, so the person who killed can quickly run to the Ir Miklat. These last words in the pasuk, Ki lo sonei hu lo mitmol shilsham, according to Rav Huna, are talking about it's not a continuation of this pasuk. According to Rav Huna, it's going back on the psukim before. Right, if you look at the pasuk Gimel, it says Tachin lecha derech. You should set up the road, put up the signs on the road. V'shilash as gvolartzcha, as we learned before, there should be 3 different cities throughout Eretz Yisrael. If you go through all the psukim are saying, make it easy for Reuven, the murderer, to get to an Ir Miklat. Why? Because of the last couple words in our pasuk, Ki lo sonehu lo mitmol sham, because he didn't hate him, he killed him by accident. So feel bad for the guy and let him get to a refuge city. Now, according to Rav Huna, so Rav Huna is really splitting up the pasuk a little bit. So pasuk Vav, again, if you look at pasuk Vav, the pasuk is saying, Pen yirdav Gol Adam achrotzech. So we feel bad for Reuven, lest the Gol Adam is going to run after him and try to kill him. And the words lo ein mishpat maves means the Gol Adam knows that he's not going to be put to death for killing Reuven. Therefore, he might try to kill Reuven. And then the pasuk says, by the way, why are we doing this whole thing? Ki lo sonehu, who over here is a different person. Reuven never hated the guy, so therefore he doesn't deserve to die. Let him get to an ir miklat, which is a funny way to read the pasuk, seemingly. But that's Rav Huna's chiddush. So Rav Huna's chiddush is that if the Gol Adam kills Reuven, the Gol Adam is off the hook, and he sees that in the words "lo e mishpat hamavis." Lo means to him, not. So let's go back. Let's read Rav Huna again. Amar Rav Huna rotzech shegal le'ir miklat, back in the Gemara. Umatzo gadam v'hargu pater. If he finds him, he's pater. Shneimar, as the pasuk kasaver, he holds, quote, v'lo e mishpat mavis. Those words, begol hadam u'dechsiv, that is referring to the Gol Adam. Good. Now the Gemara has a question from a brisa. Meisvei, the Gemara asks. The pasuk says, quote, v'lo ein mishpat mavis. To him there is not a judgment of death. He does not deserve to die. What are those words of the pasuk? End quote. What's that referring to? Birotseach hakasim medaber. The brisa says it's actually referring to the murderer. In other words, the way to read the pasuk is make a refuge city for Reuven, because lest the Gol Adam runs after him, and the Gol Adam might be very angry, and the Gol Adam might want to kill him. Now listen to the words. V'lo ein mishpat mavis. Reuven does not deserve to die, because Reuven, keep reading, ki lo soneh lo milvos Shimon. Reuven didn't hate Shimon. He didn't do this on purpose. It was an accident. He never saw Shimon before in his life. Not his enemy. So when the pasuk says lo ein mishpat mavis, the Bryce is saying that's referring to Reuven. Reuven does not deserve to die. What's the halacha if the brother of Shimon comes and kills Reuven on the way? I have no idea. That's not what the pasuk's referring to. In order, you understand, the Brisa is telling us that do everything you could in your control to make sure Reuven gets to a safe haven, because Reuven does not deserve to die. And that's what the words lo ein mishpat mavis means. Reuven doesn't deserve to die. It's not talking about the Gol Adam. This is a kasha on Rav Huna, because according to Rav Huna, the words lo ein mishpat mavis is referring to the Gol Adam, not the Rotzech. That's the Gemara's question. Let's read that again. This is referring to the murderer. The murderer does not deserve to die. Now the Brisa second guesses itself, and it says, you're saying it's Rotzech, maybe it's actually referring to the Gol Hadam, the one avenging the blood. So the Brisa says, Kishu Omer, when the pasuk says, quote, V'hu lo soneh lo mitmol shel shom, if you read the last words of the pasuk, Have Omer, you must say Berotzeach hakasim daber. It's clear, without what we saw in Rashi before, without Rav Huna's chiddush. It seems pashut pshat that the end of the pasuk, Ki lo sonehu lo mitmol shel shom, he did not hate him from yesterday and the day before. Who's that referring to? Reuven did not hate Shimon. So the person we are referring to in this pasuk is Reuven. Therefore, the line before that says lo ein mishpat mavis, he does not deserve to die, is seemingly referring to Reuven. This has nothing to do with what the halacha is if the Gol Adam actually kills him. That's the Gemara's question on Rav Huna. We have a brisa not like Rav Huna. The Gemara answers, Hu de Amar ki haytana. Rav Huna is learning like the following Tana. Meaning the Gemara is answering, true, that brisa is not like Rav Huna, but I have a different brisa which supports Rav Huna, which is what? The Tanya, the brisa says, quote, V'lo ein mishpat mavis, begol hadama kasabedaber. See? This brisa says the exact opposite, that the pasuk is actually referring to the Gol Adam, that the Gol Adam does not deserve to be killed. You're telling me it's Gol Adam, maybe it's referring to the murderer. When it says, Ki lo soneh lo mitmol shilsham, Hare Rotzech Amar, that's referring to the Rotzech. Hamani Mekayim, what do I learn with the words, quote, Lo ein mishpat mavis, begol hadam kasim medaber, that's talking about the Gol Hadam. What's the Brisa saying? The Brisa is saying, when the ends off, Ki lo soneh lo mitmol shilsham, that is referring to the Rotzech. Now obviously, this line before that, according to this Brisa, is not talking about the Rotzech, because then it will just be redundant. In other words, you told me if it says the Rotzech did not hate him mitmol shilsham, obviously he doesn't deserve to die. Why would the Torah have to say he doesn't deserve to die? That's what the pasuk's addressing in the next words. So this Brisa says, in other words, everybody agrees that the last line, lo sonehu lo mitmol shilsham, is referring to the Rotzech. Nobody's arguing that. The Brisa, which supports Rav Huna, is saying if that's referring to the Rotzech, then obviously the line before that is not referring to the Rotzech, it's referring to the Gol Adam, a raya like Rav Huna. The Brisa, which we asked from, said the exact opposite. If the last line is referring to Rotzech, so then the pasuk is seemingly, the whole pasuk is talking about the Rotzech. It's just a machlokas, how do you learn a pasuk? if the subject of the end of the pasuk is Rotzeach, does that mean the entire pasuk is referring to the Rotzeach? That's the first brisa, or the opposite? If the pasuk, the last line is talking about the Rotzeach, the line before that is not talking about the Rotzeach because then it'll be redundant. Must be it's talking about the Gol Adam. Either way, what we have now is we have two brisas arguing with each other, and Rav Huna is going like the brisa, which is like him. So again, what comes out is that the Gol Hadam who kills Reuven on the way, Reuven's on the way to the Ari Miklat, he didn't get there yet, and the Gol Adam kills him, according to Rav Huna, he is off the hook, he does not get tried and Beis Din. Good. Now the Mishnah says, the Gemara quotes the Mishnah, Tnan, we learned in the Mishnah, we give over, when the Gol Adam quickly starts running to his Ari Miklat, we hand over two Talmidei Chachamim. Perhaps the Gol Adam is going to kill him on the road. Vayidabru alav, and they will speak to him. We want two Talmidei Chacham there to calm down the Gol Adam and say, listen, you really shouldn't be killing him. Now, the Gemara says, my love, what are these Talmidei Chacham doing? My love, is it not? They're going to warn him, that if he kills, Barak Talahu, he's going to get killed. Why do we need two people and two Talmidei Chacham here? What's wrong with one person? So the Gemara is saying, seemingly the reason I need two people to escort the Rotzeach, the murderer, to his Ari Miklat, is because in case the Gol Adam approaches and he wants to kill Reuven, you'll have two Eidim here warning him and say, hey, if you Mr. Gol Adam, if you kill Reuven, you're going to be put to death. Otherwise, why do we need two Talmidei Chacham here? So the Gemara is trying to prove, so seemingly Rav Huna is wrong. Because if they warn the Gol Adam, and the whole point of warning is because they say, if you kill him, we're going to try you in court, that means that you're chayiv misa if you kill him. Contrary to Rav Huna. To which the Gemara answers, no, Kidatanya, like we learned in the Brisa. The reason the two Talmidei Chacham there is not there to warn him. It's not to warn him, and therefore if he kills him, he's going to be put to death. But rather, Vayidabru alav devar. We learned in the Brisa, Vayidabru alav devarim haroyim lo. They say to him things which are fitting for him. Omrim lo. They say to him, Altanig bo minig shofchei damim. You shouldn't be doing this thing of killing people, spilling blood. Bishkaga bo ma'isel yado. This thing happened by accident. Chill out, calm down, don't take it so hard. He didn't do it on purpose. They're just trying to talk to him and make him feel at ease. So what this Bryce is telling you is, the point of the escort is not necessarily to warn the guy that if he kills, he's going to be put to death. Rav Huna will tell you, the point of the escort is just to calm the guy down and tell him, Al Yecham Levavo, he shouldn't get upset, and tell him, listen, he killed by accident, he didn't mean to do it, and don't do anything to him. Now, parenthetically, Rameir, the Mishnah says, Rameir actually argued, Rameir says you actually don't need to send Talmidei Chachamim, but he actually speaks by himself. The Rotzeach could stick up for himself, he doesn't need anybody to defend him. Shenemar, as it says, quote, V'zed devar Rotzeach, end quote. It says, this is the word of the Rotzeach. Let the Rotzeach talk for himself, he doesn't need people to talk to him, for him. Amrulo, so the Pasha, the way Rashi reads these words, Amrulo, which means the Chachamim said back to Rameir, Harbe Shlichus Oseh. There are many things which a Shliach could do better than the guy himself. Could be the Rotzeach's not so good, he's not a good orator, he's not so good at speaking, or he's obviously confused, he's running. There are a lot of things that somebody else might be better representing you than you yourself. That's the way Rashi reads it. There are Mefarshim, I believe it's Maratzchias, that say a little differently. V'zed devar Rotzeach, Omrulo, which means they say to him, what they say to the Gol Adam is Harbe Shlichus Osa. There are many shluchim from Hashem. Hashem can make many ways of people dying. This is just a way of Hashem getting your brother to die. And it was an accident, he didn't do it on purpose. It's just another way of encouraging the Gol Adam to take a step back and realize that this was obviously God, this was his destiny. God obviously wanted this to happen. He didn't do it on purpose. Okay, but either way, that's the end of the sugi over here. Amar Mar. So now we go back to what we were saying before. So we're done with Rav Huna. Rav Huna says the Gol Adam is pater, and period. Amar Mar. B'shkaga b'ma'aseh yado. So we said that they said, listen, he did it by accident. The Gemara says, pshit, that's obvious. The Iba Mezid Bar Golasu. Obviously, the guy did it by accident because you see him running to an Ir Miklat. If he did it by Mezid, if he did it on purpose, he wouldn't be running to an Ir Miklat. So if you're the Gol Adam and you catch this guy running to an Ir Miklat, the Gemara is asking, I don't need two people to tell me, guess what, he's a shogig. Of course he's a shogig. If he's a Mezid, he doesn't belong there. He belongs going to Beis Din and to be tried and put to death. So the Gemara asks again, if it's a Mezid Bar Galus, does he deserve to go to Galus? The Gemara says, yes. Even if he's a Mezid, it could be he's going to Galus. Vatanya, as we learned in the Brayso, Rabbi Yosef Yehuda, Betchila in the beginning, Echad Shogig ve'echad Mezid Makdim Lari Miklat. According to Rabbi Yosef Yehuda, immediately when a person kills, whether it was by accident or it was b'mezid or on purpose, he runs to Ari Miklat. Ubezdin Shochem Mivim Nasam Misham, Bezdin gets him from there. Mishan is Chayiv Misa, somebody who is Chayiv Misa, Hargu, they'll kill him. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, quote, V'shalchu Ziknei Iro v'locho Samisham. It says the Ziknei Iro is referring to the Bezdin. They'll bring him from there. V'nasno so biyad Gol Adam, they'll put him in the hands of Gol Adam, Umesin Holdai. End quote. Mishlonis Chayiv, guy who's not Chayiv Patru, they will exempt him. Shenemar, it says, quote, V'tzilo Edis Ortzeach Miyad Gol Adam, they will save him, end quote. Mishan's Chayiv Galus, somebody's Chayiv Galus, Machzir Sulam Koma, they'll send him back. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, quote, Veshiva so Edel Ir Miklato Asher Nashama, they'll return him to the city he ran away from, end quote. So in other words, what the Gemara's kasha was, why do the people have to tell the Gol Adam? Again, the Gol Adam quickly catches up with the murderer, and quickly the two Talmidei Chacham step in and say, whoa, it was a shogig. Now, the Gemara asks, why do they have to say he's a shogig? Of course he's a shogig. A Mezid is not running to an Ari Miklat, so he must know that. So the Gemara's answer is not true, because according to Rabbi Yosef Yehuda, which we saw in the Mishnah, no matter what, every murderer, his first initial reaction should be drop everything and run to the Ari Miklat. After you're in the Ari Miklat, Beis Din will search out after you, bring you back to Beis Din, and then they'll do one of three things to you. Either they will kill you, or they will exempt you, or they'll send you back to Galus. Now the Gemara continues, Rabbi Omer me'atzman hingolim. Rabbi says a little bit of a different shot over here, that you're right, it could be only a shogig is supposed to go to Galus and not a Mezid, but this guy, me'atzmo, he went by himself. Kisvurim, he thought, they thought, echad shogig ve'echad Mezid koltos. He thinks that even if you're a Mezid, the city protects you. Ve'hinein yodim, they don't know, shebeshogig koletes, that only b'shogig it protects you, b'mezid enu koletes. So this is another answer to the question of why they're saying he's a shogig, because they're saying, listen, he's not making mistakes. Sometimes a guy could run to the Ari Miklat, even though he's a Mezid. Right? He's making a mistake. That's wrong to think that if you go to Ari Miklat when you're a Mezid, you'll be protected. But okay, could be the guy made a mistake. Amar Rabbi Lazar. Actually, Rashi explains it a little bit more than that. Rashi says, when the pasuk says that Lo Amar Katz Shigla Elu Hu Toeh V'Golem, the pasuk is saying that if a guy made a mistake and he ran to the Ari Miklat, you should take him away from there. But not lechatchila a Mezid is supposed to go there. If a guy made a mistake and he went there, you should take him away and do whatever you got to do to him. Good, new thing over here. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Ir Sheruba Rotzchim, a city which the majority is Rotzchim, Eno Koletes, it doesn't protect. If one of the Ari Miklats has a lot of murderers, where there's a majority of murderers in that city, it doesn't protect. Shenemar, as it says, quote, V'diber ba'azne zikna ha'ir hahi. He should speak in the ears of the elders of that city, es devar of his words, end quote. He should tell them what happened, and he should try to impress on them what happened, and it sounds like he's bringing something new to the table over here. Velo, and not shehushvu divreim ledvarav, as opposed to where his words are equal to their words. Meaning, if the entire city or the majority of the city is murderers, so when he walks in and says, I'm a murderer, you're not being mechadesh anything. You're not saying anything new over here. So that's what it means, hishvu divreim ledvarav. If your words are the same as their words, that's not what we're talking about. Has to be you tell them something new. Tell them, I'm a murderer, this is what happened. They should be shocked by such a thing. So we see from the pasuk's only referring to people who the majority of them are not murderers. From Rabbi Lazar, new thing. Ir she'im ba zakenim, a city which does not have elders. Eino koletes, it doesn't protect. It's not called an ir miklat. To be inan, because we need, quote, ziknei ha'ir, and quote, veleka, and there's not. The pasuk says you have to go and talk to the ziknei ha'ir. Now, if there's no ziknei ha'ir, you can't talk to them. So this, Rabbi Lazar is saying, this is something which is ikuva. This is important, and it prevents. If you don't have it, it doesn't work. You have to be able to talk to the zikanim. If there's no zikanim, it's not called an ir miklat. Itmar, we learned, ir she'im ba zikanim, a city which does not have elders. Rav Ami, Rav Asi have machlokas about this. Chad amar koletas, one says, it absorbs, it protects you. V'chad amar ina koletas. One says it doesn't. Leman da'amar ina koletes, the one who says it does not protect. But inan, we need, quote, ziknei ha'ir, the elders of the city, end quote. V'lekan, there's not. Very pashut. Leman da'amar koletes, the one who says it does protect, even though there's no elders, mitzvah ba'alma. It's merely a mitzvah, meaning it's preferable if there are elders there that you should talk to the elders. If there's no elders, it's fine, it still works. So Machlokes, what did the Torah mean when the Torah says speak to the elders? Is that a prerequisite, and if you don't have that, it doesn't work? Or is it a nice thing? It's a nice advantage to be able to talk to the elders. But if there's no elders, it still works. That's the Machlokes. Similarly, v'ir she'im ba zakenim, if you have a city that does not have zakenim, Rav Amri, Rav Asi have Machlokes. Chad amar nasaba ben sor morer, one says you can make a ben sor morer, the wayward son. V'chad amar in nasaba ben sor morer, one says you cannot make a ben sor morer. This is the same Machlokes as you're about to see. Laman damar in nasaba ben sor morer, the one who says it's you do not become a ben sor morer in such a city. But inan, we need, quote, ziknei iro, end quote. V'leka, and there's not. The pasuk says you take your wayward son to the elders of his city, and you go through the whole process over there, whatever the whole process is. So therefore, one mandamar says, if there's no elders in the city, there's no ben saramur in that city. Lamanda Amar Nasba ben saramur, the one who says you still can make a child a ben saramur in such a city, mitzvah be'alma, it's a mitzvah be'alma, it's a preferable thing to bring him to the elders, but it's not ma'akiv, it doesn't prevent. A third machlokas, v'ir she'im bazakenu, Rav Amri Ravasi, chanamar meviya egla rufa, one says you bring an egla rufa, v'chanamar ena meviya egla rufa, another one says you don't bring an egla rufa. Egla rufa, we know, it says in the Torah, somebody found a dead body, nobody knew who killed it, so there's a whole process over there called egla rufa, many halachas over there. So it says over there you bring the elders of the city. So once again, Lamanda Amar ena meviya egla rufa, be'inan, you need, quote, ziknei ha'ir hahi, the elders of that city, end quote, v'leka, you don't have it. Lamanda Amar meviya egla rufa, the one says you do bring the egla rufa, mitzvah be'alma, it's merely a mitzvah be'alma, it's a nice mitzvah, it's a nice thing to have, but it's not something that prevents that if you don't have it, it doesn't work. So good, if we could just review what we had. We had that different Amoraim when they would start off the whole sugya of Rotseach, they would bring different psukim, as we saw, and we saw the story, Mishal Kadmonim, where one person killed by accident, one person killed on purpose, they both were not caught. God will arrange things that it'll happen the right way, that the murderer will get killed, and the guy who killed Begol, killed by accident, will kill again by accident, he'll fall off the ladder. Then we saw the way a person wants to go, that's the way God will allow you to go, you'll be led along that path. We proved that from Torah, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim. Fine. Then we had this halacha of Rav Huna. Rav Huna says that the Rotseach, who's running to the Ir Miklat, and then the Gol Adam comes and kills him on the way, Rav Huna says the Gol Adam is not put to death. He's allowed to do it. We're not saying he should do it, but if he did, that's okay. Why so? Because he learned the words V'lo ein mishpat mavis is referring to the Gol Adam. We had a kasha from a Bryce. The Bryce says Lo ein mishpat mavis is referring to the Rotseach. It's not referring to the Gol Adam. And the Gemara says no, we actually have a Bryce supporting Rav Huna. Then we try bringing the Mishnah as a proof. The Mishnah says two Talmidei Chachamim actually talk to the guy and try to calm him down. Seemingly what they say is they warn him that if you kill him, you're going to get killed. The answer is no, that's not what they say. What they say is very simply, the guy's a shogeg, don't worry about it, it's not so bad, he didn't really mean it. But it doesn't mean that they're warning him. And we saw parenthetically, Rameir says actually he says it by himself. Okay. Then we saw the Gemara says, why do they have to tell him he's a shogeg? If he's a mazid, he shouldn't be run to the Ir Miklat. The Gemara says, no, not true. According to Rabbi Yehuda, even a mazid runs to the Ir Miklat. And Rabbi said also, it could be the guy, he's a mazid, he ran to the Ir Miklat incorrectly, but still, that's what the pasuk's saying. If he went there, you should pull him back and do whatever you got to do to him, whatever he deserves. Then we saw in Ir, a city which has a majority of rotzchim, of murderers, that's not called a Ir Miklat, because you have to be able to say your words and speak to the zakenim of the city. Tell them a chiddush, tell them something that's not, something that's not part of them. As opposed to if they're all rotzchim, you're equal to them. Good. And then we had the three different machlokas between Rav Ami and Rav Asi. Three different things. Number one, Egla Rufa. Number two, Ben Saramora. And number three, the city of Ir Miklat. In all three places it says the word Ziknei Ha'ir. There's a machlokes by all three of them. Does that mean if there's no ziknei ir, you do not perform any of those three things? Or is the word ziknei ir just a nice advantage if you could, but if you can't, you still perform all the mitzvahs?